Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to Boilermaker Lounge. I am Sam Springer, joined by Grant Flora. Grant, it's Friday, and tomorrow we have a whale of a basketball game coming from West Lafayette.
Oh yeah, it's really looking forward to the game. I feel like this is we've seen Purdue with the game at Alabama, obviously huge test. Then the win against Texas Tech, but Texas Tech's been struggling a little bit. So it's like, okay, that was obviously a great performance, but how good are they really?
Right.
Now we're playing an Iowa State team. They're undefeated. They've got a nice win over St. John's, blew out Creighton. So like you have an established top 10 opponent coming into your house, and we're gonna get another great litmus test where this Purdue team's at.
Yeah, Iowa State's averaging 96.3 points a game coming into the contest tomorrow. And their lowest output, let's see, what I see is like 76 against Creighton, and they won by, or 78 against Creighton, and that was a game they won by 18 points. So I'm guessing they kind of maybe didn't blow the doors off of them, but at the same time, okay, late in the game they kind of, pulled the reins back and just kind of coasted home on that one. I'm guessing, but definitely, I sent you a picture of the box score the other day, or was that 2 days ago, about their game against Alcorn State. They won the game 132-68. So they put up a few points there. But the big thing that I noticed, Grant, and I even put in there, they'll be hard pressed to do this again. 22 of 30 from threes.
Yeah, I mean they absolutely shot the lights out. Like kind of like you said, that's a once in a season type of performance from shooting from three. Also, you have to consider Alcorn State. They were 1-8, I think, leading up to that game, or maybe they're currently 1-8. Point
Correct.
is, even amongst mid majors, they're not a very strong basketball team right now. So if like I can see how I bet Iowa State was able to get whatever they wanted offensively, not just from the outside but inside, simply because they're a good team and Alcorn's had their struggles. But still, to shoot 22 of 30 in warmups is not easy to do, and they
Right.
did it in a game. So
Right.
if nothing else, this team can shoot the basketball, and if you're Purdue, I think they have good defense. They played good defense all year, but guarding the 3-point line has been a little iffy in the past. Sometimes they just allow open looks that probably shouldn't be allowed. So definitely the game around the 3-point line, not just for Iowa State, but for Purdue, can have a pretty big implication on this game.
Looking at who Iowa State has played, and this is not at all saying I don't think that they're worthy of the number 10 ranking in the country, but they played St. John's, Creighton, and Syracuse. Those are essentially the games they've played. Now I take that back. They played Mississippi State as well. I'm not sure how good the Bulldogs are, but there have been those 4 of their 8 games were the toughest, and the closest game was St. John's. They won 83-82. Other than that, they've won every one of them by at least 18 points. These guys are really high octane offense, but they haven't seen a team like Purdue yet. They just haven't seen it. They haven't been in an environment like what Mackey Arena is going to be like tomorrow. And you've been there as a fan. You're going to be there tomorrow as covering it for media. I was there for the Akron game, and I sent you guys, the Boilermaker Lounge chat. The decibels for the game against Akron got up to 107. I can't imagine it's going to be any low. It's got to get higher than that, especially with the team that's coming into play.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think without a question, the biggest game of this season that's been played at Mackey Arena.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so, like you said, it's been jumping. This season's been kind of a huge season that's been building up for months ever since the end of last season. Just what is expected for this year to chase a national championship. And so we're going to see Mackey kind of at its full strength for the first time this season with all that build up and all that anticipation. And you're right, it should be pretty special. And we talked about, beginning about how this is another good litmus test for Purdue, but how
Yeah.
about Iowa State? You make a great point.
Sure.
Like you're right, their best wins against St. John's, a St. John's team that hasn't quite gotten off to the start people expected, losing to Alabama at home, losing to Iowa State. They've had some tough performances. Even some of their wins have been pretty close. They have a great roster, but they're still figuring some things out. So for Iowa State, you make a great point. Like even the win over Creighton and the wins over Syracuse, those two teams are not kind of as good as they normally are. Syracuse has been all sorts of up and down this year with a tough performance where they battled Houston down to the wire and then they got blown out in some other games, I think.
And then they beat
Houston,
Tennessee.
they played close. Right, and then they beat Tennessee. So it's nobody really has any idea where Syracuse is at right now. Creighton kind of same thing. So this could be a game that maybe Iowa State gets exposed in ways they haven't been exposed. Purdue's able to find some things, and it's a blowout. Or flip side, you had mentioned the Iowa State offense. This Purdue defense is probably the weaker aspect of their team. Not that their defense is weak. It's just the weaker aspect of their team.
Sure.
And if Iowa State's offense kind of takes advantage of that, this might be a game where it takes 95 points to win the game.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at Dustin Schuette's article about the 5 things you need to know about Iowa State. And the first thing I see, or first thing on his list, is I don't know if it's Tamin or Tamin. I'm going to say it's Tamin. Tamin Lipsey has been injured. He's their star guard, and he got hurt the first game of the Players Era Festival, which that Players Era thing, I hope Purdue never plays in it, just because it's so stinging. Iowa State went 3-0 and didn't even play for third place. That's how crazy to me that is. And so, and that is what it is. I'm just saying, he hurt himself in that first game, excuse me, with a groin injury. Hasn't slowed Iowa State any, but at the same time, averaging over 18 points a game, 5 assists, 3 steals, almost 4 rebounds per game. He's a pretty big piece that you'd like to have against the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, especially on the road when you go and play these guys, you want to have all your weapons at full force if you're going to have a shot. So, yeah, it's a great point. But the thing is, with Iowa State, they got 3 guys averaging between 18.1 and 18.4 points a game, including Lipsey. So you've got Momcilovic and Jefferson both in there. They're both forwards as well. I think it's going to be a really interesting dynamic to see how Purdue handles some more size in the front court combined with talent. We saw a little bit of it with Texas Tech, but that was one guy, JT Toppin. You've got Jefferson, you've got Momcilovic. You've even got Buchanan. Blake Buchanan's also pretty big. It's been a nice piece to this Iowa State team. So that front court for them is going to be good, but Tamin Lipsey is a huge loss in that backcourt, especially when you have to deal with the best backcourt in the country in Smith and Lawyer.
Yeah, so it is Tamin.
That's what I'm going with. I feel like it feels right to me. I don't know why, but it does.
You're probably not wrong. I just I didn't have any frame of reference, so I figured I went with the short A. But yeah, it's definitely something. And he was a game time decision for the game against Alcorn State, and they decided not to play him. So it's very possible that they decided, you know what, we're going to win this game against Alcorn State. We don't need you. Let's give you a few extra days to be able to get that groin feeling at least better, to where you feel better about going out there and playing against Purdue on Saturday. Or, excuse me, it just hasn't progressed enough, and maybe Saturday he doesn't play. Either way, Purdue's going to come out ready for him. I have no doubt about that. But it's a matter of, it takes away one more weapon that Iowa State would have. The next thing is Iowa State dishes the ball, so it's much like Purdue, to where it's not a guarantee that one person is going to be the distribution guy. They all like to pass the ball around and get the ball open. They average almost 20 assists per game, 19.3 per game, which is actually the 18th best average in the country over that first month of the season. So Purdue's got to make sure they're not letting up on their backside of their defense. I mean, you're right that Purdue's weak side of the ball, and I use the air quotes there because it's a heck of a lot stronger than it was 12 months ago. I can tell you that. But their weak part, or their weak side of the ball, is defense. Also, when you're averaging almost 90 points a game, that you could say probably that your defense is probably your weaker side of the ball. But
Right.
That's why I said they do play well on defense. But where is this here? Jefferson. What's Jefferson's last name? Or first name?
That is his last name is Josh Jefferson, or Joshua Jefferson.
Yeah, Joshua Jefferson. And that's right. You said that earlier, and I couldn't remember it. He had 10 assists the last time out that they played against Alcorn State. Actually, the last 2 games. And so it's not just one person, but this guy Jefferson is one that you've got to make sure that he's, I guess, stay on your guy, because if he gets it to your guy and he shoots it the way Iowa State's been shooting, he's going to get some assists. And much like with Braden Smith, you can't really take it completely away, but you can try to slow it up at least.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that matchup between Jefferson and Trey Kaufman-Renn. I'm assuming they'll be matched up against each other at the 4 spot. He's a scoring machine. He rebounds the ball well. He assists. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Trey Kaufman-Renn just from a basic stat perspective. The big difference, I think, is that he can step out and shoot the ball. And so TKR will have to get out there and guard him. And then, what's his ability to drive the ball going to be like? It's going to test TKR's defense in some pretty big ways. I think we'll learn a lot about that in this game. But, you talk about just the matchups both in the backcourt and the front court. We're going to find out a lot about these guys and what they can handle at the championship level.
Yeah, and I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Cyclones are shooting at least 50% or better from the floor. So that is something else. Another point that Purdue's got to really kind of lock down on some defense and force some bad shots. There are some the shooters. This is Lipsy, Jefferson, Momcilovic, Torrey, Blake Buchanan, and is it Heisey or Heise? Heisey.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't tell you.
They're all shooting over 50%, and when you've got that many people, and don't get me wrong, when you play some lesser teams, you're going to have better shooting percentages, but you still have to hit the shots. You know what I mean? You still have to hit. They're shooting very well from outside of threes too. Not the 73% that they shot against Alcorn State, mind you, but they do shoot the ball pretty well from threes. So it's definitely something. 43.3%. But they take it to at least 23 shots per game behind the 3-point line. So I think the running theme here is, Purdue's going to play an offense that is high octane, much like the Alabama offense is. Now, that's not to say that they're identical, because that means they're not putting up 35 threes a game. They're putting up a 23, but that means they're still able to go down low. This is going to take a lot of good defense outside the arc and inside the arc to slow these guys down. It is something that I'm glad it's at Mackey, because that gives just a little bit of an edge for the fact that the crowd will be able to maybe disrupt some things for Iowa State. But at the same time, Boilers come out and be aggressive like they have been on the glass. So not giving the Cyclones extra chances, offensive rebounds, or second chances at better shots or shots away from the hoop. If they're going to win, if they're going to beat Purdue at Mackey Arena, I want it to be because they hit 33s.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be hard to. I mean, that's 90 points from 3-pointers. It'd be hard
Right.
to, right. And 30 is an exaggeration, of course. But
Exactly. Yes, but still, but you get what I'm saying. I want them,
right. Yeah.
if they're going to beat Purdue, it needs to be that they were able to replicate that crazy 3-point shooting that they had against Alcorn State, and just you can't do anything about that. I mean, if they're hitting the threes and they're and our guys aren't just standing 6 feet away going, please shoot the ball, and giving them wide open threes, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. Well, I think we should take a little bit closer look here at kind of the stat line from that Alcorn State game. And I'm hesitant to base too much off of that game, because if you're
I get
playing
what you're saying.
a weaker
I get why.
opponent, right, like your stats are going to be all kind of inflated. But you had 3 guys over 20 points. Josh Jefferson and Milan Momcilovic were both 24 and 27 respectively. And you would expect that 2 of their best players, they're the 2 guys averaging 18 right now, in addition to Lipsy, and
Right.
they're bigger players that have the size advantage. Not surprised by that at all. Am surprised that Momcilovic goes 8 of 9 from 3. That's pretty ridiculous. 8 of 9. I don't care if you're wide open in a game. To go 8 from 9 from 3 is impressive. And he's going to play. It's going to be really interesting to see how Purdue guards these guys, because if they start Buchanan, Jefferson, and Momcilovic, which they've done for the majority of the season, if not the entirety, that's 6'10" Buchanan, 6'9" Jefferson, and Momcilovic is maybe 6'8". Yeah, 6'8". And I'm assuming that makes Momcilovic the 3, which means CJ Cox / Jakari Harris are probably going to be guarding him. 6'8" guy that can shoot 8 of 9. That's an opportunity potentially for Iowa State to win a matchup, but also we're going to see again how good these guys are defensively with him, and how Purdue handles a wing that's got size. Then you got 26 points off the bench from Jamarian Bateman, who played 28 minutes in this game, went 7 of 10 from 3, 9 of 13 from the field. He averages 7.8 on the season, and that's after the 26-point game against Alcorn State. So he just came out of nowhere and dropped 26 points and played 28 minutes. That's pretty interesting to me, because without Lipsy, you've got Toure in your backcourt, and you've got Heisey, or however you say it. Both of those guys are averaging combined. Toure is averaging about 12 points a game, and Heisey's got like 5.9. So not like the most explosive or offensive guards when you don't have Lipsy in the game. And Toure, from what I've seen, even recently, hasn't been like scoring quite a bit. I think he had like 6 points against St. John's in that game. So against competition like Purdue, who's to say he can really put up those numbers? I mean, I say that really is that their backcourt isn't super explosive on the offensive end. It's their front court, which Purdue, I think, has a front court that can handle that. But if you have a guy like Jamarian Bateman coming off your bench that can drop 26 points and go 7 of 10 for 3, that's a potential X factor for Iowa State, and something Purdue's got to watch for.
Well, and like you said, you've got to take it with a grain of salt as to who their opponent was when these guys did this. But at the same time, like you said, I don't care who you are. If you're going 8 of 9 from 3, that's impressive, even if you're just out there shooting, with nobody in your face. But at the same time, it's safe to say, and we looked at what who their opponents have been. They haven't played a team like Purdue yet. They haven't played a team like Purdue that comes out with a starting 5 that can just decimate you offensively. Oh, and then by the way, the next 4 to 5 people off the bench could easily blow up for that same type of style. And when you have to exert so much energy on the defensive side, that can roll over onto your offensive performance and detract from what you're doing. So I agree. You can't say it's apples to apples, like, oh my goodness, they're going to do the same thing against Purdue, because it's a different type of offense that you're having to deal with. First off, you don't know where in the world the pass is going to go from Braden Smith. His
teammates
pass,
barely know.
Oh, correct. And that pass, and I guess we didn't even talk about the game Tuesday, which we can do that here in just a couple of minutes here, wrap up about the game against Rutgers, because You guys pretty much handled it and nailed it down with the post game show, but not everybody watches that, so we'll talk about that a little bit here in just a couple of minutes as well. But the fact that he did that in traffic, the behind the back pass in traffic to hit a cutting Oscar Clough perfectly for the dunk just amazes me. And you're right. His teammates don't even always know that whether or not it's coming. And that's an impressive thing that we see, that he makes those types of passes and they hit it. They get hit in stride, and it's almost like they expected it. You know, even though they don't know if he's shooting the ball. They don't. I mean, they literally are like, okay, I'm going to expect a pass, and if he puts up a shot, I'm ready to rebound. You know, that's kind of what it seems to me. But going back to the Iowa State part, the one thing that I was looking at in this article by Dustin Schutte, he was talking about how they crashed the offensive boards, and they only average, and I say only, but they only average 12.1 offensive rebounds a game, right? Which is not amazingly great, but it's a decent number. But when you add that to their field goal percentage, their shooting percentage, it says here, he puts in here, Iowa State is either making shots or grabbing offensive rebounds on 73.8% of their possessions. Wow. That is amazing to me. 7.5 times out of 10 times down the floor, if they're either making it or rebounding it, a missed shot to get another attempt. That needs, and you know what? Purdue's done a fantastic job against teams that shoot the ball, that shoot the ball at a high percentage, but when they miss, Purdue's been doing a great job against most after the slow start at the beginning of the year of getting that defensive rebound and keeping the second chances at a very small minimum.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the glass is going to be a pretty big part of this game. The other thing, and I think if you're Purdue, one way they might be able to take advantage of Iowa State is simply by dominating them in the backcourt. You look at Toure, you look at Heisey, and look at Bateman. I'm assuming those are going to be the primary three guards if Lipsey's out of the game. If Lipsey's in, then obviously that helps them a lot.
Right.
Two of those guys, Toure and Bateman, are freshmen. And Heisey is a senior, but he's been coming off the bench most of the year until Lipsey gets hurt. To me, you look at those three guys compared to Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, even Omer Meyer, and then CJ and Jakari. Like, Purdue, especially with their home environment, has a chance to really rattle and mess with those guys, whether it's, getting some steals early before they even get it across half court, whether it's being able to just find ways to exploit them on the offensive end. I think if Purdue wins the backcourt game, they could take guys like Momcilovic and Jefferson out of the game simply because the backcourt can't handle it enough to get it there.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But the funny thing is the last point Dustin Schutte gives in his article is they have veteran leadership.
Well, there we go.
He said they've got some new pieces in their roster, but the core group still has plenty of experience in Ames. They're not in their first season basically in Ames. Jefferson transferred in last year after he was at St. Mary's for a couple of years. Momcilovic is on his third season, but you have Lipsey, who's been there all 4 years. So those are the three of their three core guys that have been there. But you're absolutely right. And, that was the big knock 3 years ago when Braden Smith was the point guard of Purdue, and they forced the freshman into mistakes. The one that I always come back to is a game in Bloomington. When the game was on the line, he went driving down the left baseline. He went in the air and didn't know what he was doing with the ball at that point. He had no idea, and he threw the ball away. Well, if you can force and that's a freshman in a raucous environment on the road. What are these guys going to be in? They're going to be in a raucous environment on the road. So I totally agree that's something that they can very well take advantage of, and I agree if they can win that, it's a big step in making sure that Iowa State walks out of Mackey Arena with their first loss of the season.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Like they definitely do have veterans, especially in their front court, and a flip season in the game that helps them a lot.
Right.
But it reminds me too of like NCAA tournament. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer's freshman year. Like Zach Edey was the leader, he was the best player, but to a certain extent, he got taken out of the game because the freshmen couldn't quite run the offense and do the things they needed to do to get him the ball and to run that the way they were supposed to do it. And it allowed FDU to stay in that game. It can be a similar situation to that where the more pressure Purdue puts on that backcourt, the more they're able to take the front court out of the game before they even get a chance to go. And then once they do get it, they still have to deal with TKR and Clough and Jacobson and those types of guys. So I think Purdue can orchestrate this in a way where they match up really well, but Iowa State definitely has some threats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's this is not going to be a cakewalk by any means, but I love that. I love the fact that it's yet again an early season before Christmas style top 10 battle that is going to do nothing but help Purdue at the end of the season when they've got a game against a team like Iowa State or even against Iowa State, in a neutral environment to where they're able to handle anything that's coming at them, from them because they've seen it, or they've played teams that they're playing a team that's similar in style or type of size as Iowa State. So it's definitely something that is a great opportunity for Purdue to get a really good quad 1 win. Like it's a quad 1A win, when that happens, and it only sets the table nicely going into towards the next couple of weeks where they play Minnesota at home, who good job beat IU. And then Marquette next Saturday, and then the week after that, I believe it's I think do they have a whole week off in between that to get to Auburn? I don't remember if there's a game in there in between or not.
That should be finals week for Purdue, so they won't have a game that week.
Yeah, that's a whole week. So yeah, so then they go into Auburn. There are 3 games right there after this one. And even Kent State's not going to be a cakewalk necessarily to get through. But that leading into the end of December, this is a good stepping stone to say, okay, we're in good shape when we're going forward from here.
Yeah, I was going to make the point about a resume builder too. And even if they lose, it's not one of those losses that's going to hurt them much come March. But even just thinking about them losing, like it's hard to think that way when they're playing at home. Like it's just hard for me to envision a game where Purdue loses at Mackey when they're one of the best teams in the country. But at the same time, it happens, and Iowa State's the type of team that could do it if they catch fire. So it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be back and forth and just a lot of offense. Like Purdue's defense, I think, has a chance to slow them down. But ultimately, I think Iowa State's going to be able to put points on the board. I don't know how they'll deal with Purdue offensively. I think Purdue will kind of have their way. And when you have that kind of a situation, it becomes a pretty fun game where a lot of points could be scored.
I don't know why, and don't ask me why I even feel this way, but for some reason, I just think that it's going to be kind of that UCLA game from last year style of game where they're kind of back and forth in one another, and the Boilermakers come through a little bit late in the game and kind of put some distance between themselves. But I don't know why I even think that, because UCLA doesn't match up or doesn't resemble what Iowa State is now. But Iowa State hasn't come into a place like Mackey Arena, and I will keep beating that drum until the cows come home, because there's a reason why every time somebody's asked the hardest place to play when they played in the Big Ten, most of the time they say Mackey Arena is the absolute hardest, because you sit there and look at each other, you're 3 feet away, and you can't say a word to one another because they ain't going to hear it. You know what I mean? You've got to learn hand signals and kind of lip reading really quickly in that environment, because it gets up to 110, 112 decibels, and that is loud.
Yeah, no, it's I feel like, players in the past have thought that they would be able to handle Mackey like it's just another hard environment, but no, it's a lot
Trained at
more
home
than
too.
that. It's gonna be yeah, it's gonna be something that Iowa State's never really experienced before, and that's the case for anybody really who's a non-conference opponent that comes into Mackey. Like nobody has that experience, even in the Big Ten. Not very many people do with the
Yeah.
transfers and the like. I don't know. I guess the more sparingly they play at arenas these days because you have so many teams that you're playing only once during the year. So you only play at Mackey maybe every other year. Like there's just a lot of people that don't have that experience, which bodes well for Purdue at home.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be exciting. I'm glad you're going to be there. That way you can tell us kind of um, how that was. Hopefully it'll be, man, that was a great win. And oh my goodness, I had went the whole weekend without being able to hear anybody. That's what my hope for you is. I hope your ears are fine, but I hope you have a little bit of ringing in them as you drive back to Indiana Wesleyan after the game on
Yeah.
Saturday. That's my hope for you. But let's go back, and I can't believe I forgot that when I was getting ready to start the show, I was like, did we play a game? And then I just kind of went into the top 10 battle. Purdue 1-0 in the Big Ten. They're first in the Big Ten because they won their home or their road opener in Piscataway against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Grant, this didn't seem like there was ever really much doubt that Purdue was going to win this game. It really didn't.
No, I would say for me it was when they responded with the 10-0 run to go up 30-19, force the Rutgers timeout. I knew for sure then that they should be in the clear. When Rutgers went on the 10-0 run before that and made it 20-19,
Right.
it was like, oh, okay, maybe Rutgers is going to hang around for a little bit. But the response was honestly a championship level response to do that on the road. And so that was really good to see. And then, yeah, they kind of cruised from there.
Yeah, Trey Kaufman-Renn, 19 points, 13 rebounds. I do believe of the 6 games he's played, is that 5 double-doubles, or has he gotten them on all 6? I want to say the last game that he didn't have it.
He didn't have
Prior
it the
to
last game.
Rutgers,
I
yeah.
almost want to say maybe he only has gotten to 4. I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
I'm wrong.
I think, but still, the fact remains is he's averaging a double-double since he's
Yeah.
returned from his hip injury that kept him out the first couple of games. And I love the intensity that he comes with. Now, it's not to say that that occasionally he's gonna probably run into a matchup to where he's not going to be able to be as rough and tumble because with Rutgers, I don't think he ever was against somebody that was taller than him or you had bigger size than him, so he could be not the bully but have just that height advantage that allows him to be able to fight. And I was a fight for the rebounds with the intensity, and I watched the post game reaction from you and Dustin, and you guys mentioned something about where this rebounding, not necessarily knowing where this rebounding came from because it kind of came out of nowhere. I honestly think it's from the year that he had to spend as a 5. The fact that he had to scratch and claw for all of the rebounds that he had, and which weren't great numbers last year as the 5. But now this year he's taking that same intensity against guys that are his size or smaller, and he's dominating them in the same manner as he was able to scrape 5 or 6 rebounds together last year as a 5. He's able to do it at 12, 14, 15 as a 4.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think it probably is. That is definitely a big piece of it. I think part of it too can just be he's gotten stronger. Like,
Sure.
I honestly think he looks bigger and stronger than he has in past years. And then a third piece, I honestly think just sitting out those first 2 games was huge for him. Because I didn't see that same kind of intensity the first 2 exhibition games. Like, not to the extent that it is now. Maybe I should look back and maybe I'd see it more now that I'm seeing it more consistently during the season. But I feel like sitting out those first 2 games and seeing the rebounding issues that they had really kind of fueled him to fix it. And he comes in against Alabama, and obviously we saw that awesome performance, and he's carried it on from there.
Well, and it might be some of that to where all of those things build upon one another,
Right.
and that's where
Yeah.
you get him as the crazy man on the boards. Oh, and by the way, he can score 20 points a game too, and
Yeah.
and if he continuously, I know there's going to be peaks and valleys during this time, but there's honestly, I think he could easily be one to where he averages 19, 20 points a game. He could average a double this season. I really do think that he's in that position that fits him so well that he could really average a double pretty, not easily, but relatively easily. Let's say it that way. I mean, to the point where he's going to be one of the better guys on the court at all times. That there's just no doubt. And if he does average a double, I don't honestly, Grant, I would say this: if he averages a double, I say there's a chance that he's the Heisman, the Naismith finalist, and Braden Smith isn't. And that's not saying Braden Smith took a back seat or took a step back in his performance.
Yeah, it's a decent point because Braden, his stats haven't necessarily been there, at least in the scoring column. And part of me is like, it's hard to be a national player of the year if you're
Right.
not averaging more than 10 or 11 points. Like,
Right.
Not to say he's not the best player and that he's not deserving of it. It's just hard. And Traekop and Ren will have the stats and just his impact on the game. Like, I think people are starting to recognize the way that he has just as big a role in the performance of this team as Braden Smith in a lot of ways. You just see it, in the first 2 games he was out. So I think that's a huge part of it, how you affect winning, and then the stats are going to be there. And yeah, I think he very easily could end up being just as good of a chance, if not a better chance, of getting that award than Braden.
And I may be way wrong. I mean, we may have a stretch where Braden Smith averages 19 points and 10 assists per game, and Purdue just goes on a rampage, and he's one of the reasons why. But I haven't seen evidence that I think that that's going to happen to the point where I think Braden Smith, while he can score at will if he needs to, I don't think he wants to. I think he would rather distribute the ball and make those passes to get his guys the ball. Not even saying he wants the assists. I think he just likes distributing and running that offense. He'll score if he needs to, but at the same time, there's not going to be a lot of times. There will be some, but there's not going to be a lot of times that Purdue's going to need him to score. They need him to distribute and run the offense. So with that, I think he'll take a step back at least on his scoring average, and I think that's where my point is. If TKR keeps it up and ends up at 18, 19 points a game and 13, 14 rebounds a game, he's going to be in some serious talk for Player of the Year, both at Big Ten and national.
Yeah, to that point, it's still really good to see Braden put up 16 points against Rutgers. Offense, or at least scoring, hasn't quite been going there for him these last couple of games. So his shots hadn't quite been falling. He hadn't really sought out the offense as much, maybe, but to come out and have 16 points and make his first 3 threes in that first 5 or 10 minutes to help get Purdue going a little bit offensively, I thought was really, really good. And then, like I said, TKR still with 19. So the big 3 for Purdue kind of was back in control from a scoring standpoint, because Fletch still chipped in 12. Despite not being able to hit the broadside of a barn the first, the first half, maybe even some. Right. I mean, literally, he couldn't make anything outside of a few free throws.
He was 3 of 11 overall.
Yeah, and then he kind of found it a little bit toward the second half, made a couple transition threes, I think. But yeah, it was kind of crazy how much he was struggling, I thought, just at the start, and then he kind of figured it out toward the end.
Daniel Jacobson only played 13 minutes, but he was 1 of 1 from the field. So he still has his streak. I believe it's sitting at 25 consecutive baskets now for the redshirt. Well, no, he didn't redshirt. I'm sorry, the sophomore center for Purdue. Oscar Clough, not the dominant figure that he had been in the past a few games, but he got in a little bit of foul trouble. That is one of those that things were going well enough around him that they didn't necessarily need him. He was still 4 of 8 from the field. He had 8 points. He had 3 rebounds, not the same presence on the boards, but again, a little bit of foul trouble kind of led to that. Jacobson, the same way. He had 3 fouls as well. But Jakari Harris actually finally got some shots in. He went 4-5. That was huge. I love seeing his shots finally starting to fall the past 2 games to where he's hopefully getting some confidence, because I think we could see some really big things out of him. And the nice thing, I think, is for him, while he has struggled, this would have been the best scenario for him to struggle because of what Purdue has offensively without him having to contribute. He was able to get some minutes in to where he could get some shots that started to fall, and maybe that opens up the confidence for him, and we see more things from him going forward as well.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to be a huge piece, and he was able to step up when a lot of guys in Purdue really didn't have great nights. I mean, Fletcher was in his dry spell because all of Jakari's points came in the first half. Fletcher wasn't hitting anything. DJ Cox really didn't have a very good game. He only went 1 of 5 from the field.
Right.
Got most of his production from the free throw line. So between those two not being able to hit as well, Braden was early, but then he even started to cool off. Like, Jakari Harris filled a void with the scoring early on and helped give Purdue that separation. So while he didn't really do a whole lot in the second half as far as scoring, his 11 points were pretty impactful in Purdue getting some distance in this game.
Purdue did out rebound Rutgers 36-25. So another dominant board game for Purdue that got the W in Piscataway, which is always one that seems like there's Rutgers doesn't always win, but they always seem to give just a hard time to Purdue there. And this year, thank goodness, it was one that it wasn't much in doubt, like you said, until after the 10-0 run in response to the 10-0 run that Rutgers made. So good job. They kept Dylan Grant to 13 points. So that was a good kept him 5 points below his average, and that was perfect. He was 5 of 10 of shooting. So like Purdue did what they needed to do to win this ball game, and it was very convincing.
Yeah. Like you said, going into Piscataway and winning by double figures is not an easy thing to do, and it's never something to take for granted. It feels like this should count as 2 wins, just being able to get out of there unscathed and without anything crazy happening. So, really excited to get through that game, especially when you could look ahead to Iowa State. So you win the game, now you have Iowa State, and you can try and cap off the week well.
Something tells me that these guys, for some reason, don't ever look ahead. I think I don't know if and maybe I'm completely missing the fact that they do will down the road, but just the business like acumen and way they go forward, the just go towards things, and they seem like they are well aware of, this is the team that's in front of us. This is the team that we need to beat. We'll worry about that team once we get past these guys. And yes, it is possible that they look past an opponent once in a while, but they haven't shown evidence of that yet. Honestly, they struggled against Oakland, but they also didn't have TKR. I really do think that was a big piece that it was missing. That if he's in that game against Oakland, we're not talking about the fact that they struggled with him at all. So I just don't see this team being one that looks by people very much.
Yeah, I mean they're all so experienced. I mean, the seniors are probably won more basketball games than any other seniors in the country. They've won 5 games in an NCAA tournament before, like in a single tournament. Like, if anybody should know not to look past, it's Purdue, especially with some of the low points in their careers. So, I feel like we can all be so confident in this team because of the veteran leadership, because of the experience and the talent that goes along with it.
Well, I think a big part of Purdue going 40-0 is the fact that their point guard was the point guard in the only the second game that ever a 16 seed beat a 1 seed. I really do think that is something that he carries with him very personally, that you know what, this will not happen again. And I don't know that they looked past FDU that year. They might have, but FDU played a perfect game that game, but I don't think he liked. Braden Smith really disliked what came after that for the next few weeks after they got beat by FDU, and I think it helps immensely, and the fact that Purdue's going 40-0 this year.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Those types of experiences can just help you in so many ways, and it obviously still is super frustrating that it happened, but a lot of positive has come from it. So
it was very frustrating being in the house watching it happen, Grant. That was the thing there. It was just a mind-numbing experience watching FDU just execute exactly what they wanted to do, hitting shots that kept them in the game even when they fell down by 7 that game. FDU just did what they kept doing. They'd hit a 3 and then they'd make a stop and then they'd hit another 2 and just get right back into it. It was the most amazing game I've ever seen, in the fact that you could see or hear the crowd turning completely in the opposite direction of Purdue. And it was Cinderella at its best, I think, is what you could say when it came to that. But anyways, I'm glad that honestly, there are things that happen for a reason, and my goodness, we didn't know why that was so dark that day, but you know what? It could be the driving force as to why our point guard is such a great point guard, because that will not happen again, is basically the mentality he took with him, I think.
Yeah, and he's one of the most competitive guys, like, in all of college basketball. Just, I think, from a straight up competitive spirit. So those are the kind of things you've just seen it even through high school and his recruitment, and now when you're at Purdue. Like, those are the kinds of things that spur these guys on.
Well, we sure are lucky to have all of those guys in Old Gold and Black, but we like having our floor general the way he is. I love the attitude, but yet the attitude is the confidence of we can do anything that we want to, because we've worked very hard, and we will outperform you at all times. But that is the end of this week in Boilermaker Lounge. Wrapped it up with a recap instead of a preview this week, or this episode, but that's just because in show I realized, wait a second, we didn't even talk about the Rutgers game. But you know what? That's fine. It's fine. We still got our words in about it. So Purdue takes on Iowa State tomorrow, Saturday, December 6th, 12 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Grant Flora will be there. Our All-American will be in the house at Mackey Arena. He will be live, formerly known as tweeting from the Boiler Lounge X account. So if you want to hear read his thoughts throughout the game against the Cyclones, be sure to go over there, click follow, and you'll get some notifications of some good stuff he's putting out in game as well. But Grant, enjoy the game tomorrow. Get there early, because parking will fill up quickly, I'm sure. So, but get us a W, man. Get us a W.
Dude, that's the plan.
If you need to go down and tell everybody, look, I'm an All-American, I need to tell you I'm a national champion here, guys. Give them a quick pep talk. I mean, I'm sure they're open to whatever. So, no, enjoy the game tomorrow, everybody. Grant, enjoy the game in-house, and take some earplugs. I mean, it might be your best bet to do that, just to make sure you don't blow an eardrum, because I have confidence that Boilermakers are going to blow up, and it's going to get really loud in there, and hopefully it is the case, and the Boilermakers improve to 9-0 and go into finals week with a next to last finals week, right? Or is
My
Or is this
finals week,
finals
but
week?
their finals week is the week after.
That's what it is. Yes. So they've got one more week yet, but still, get a W. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining us this Friday on in the Boilermaker Lounge. And for the All-American Grant Flora, I'm Sam Sprunger. We will see you next week.